And class is in session, everybody. This is the June edition of Accademia Giallo, and we're going to be talking about a movie.
What? Can you call it that? Are you sure? Are you sure we can call this a movie?
Yes.
I am sure.
It's
First
the
of all,
movie.
it's the movie. Wait, not demons. Brian, are you cheating on demons with us with this movie? Yeah, seriously. But no, first of all, we got a comment already. Good evening, guys, from Jonas. Good evening, Jonas.
Good evening, Jonas.
Hey, I hate to start things off on a somber note, but speaking of the comments, we had planned to welcome a new faculty member to Accademia Giallo today. Steve, otherwise known as Big Swifty, jumping out of the comments and onto the screen. However,
he's always in that like metaphorical water cooler, like in the teacher's lounge. You know what I mean?
That's right. He never actually teaches class.
Right. He just walks by.
Just hangs out in the water cooler in the lounge.
Well, unfortunately, at the last minute, Steve had to cancel. We will have him on a show in the future because he's an awesome guy, and look forward to his live commentary on the screen instead of just in the comments. But unfortunately, he has to be with his beloved companion of many years, Fritz, right here, who is in the process of making his transition out of this world, if I might put it that way. I don't know. That's not the most elegant way to put it, but so we all wish Steve and Fritz the best of luck and whatever's going on at this moment. Fritz, from what I understand, was Steve's companion on many an Accademia or many a Giallo viewing, and possibly an Accademia Giallo viewing. I don't know. Yeah, so
that is a loyal companion for sure. If you're sitting,
as I mentioned, yeah, and you could see like just the personality. Like that is like if you ask someone to paint a portrait of a dog, like that is an expression and a half right there. So that's awesome. All right, so. And then Brian, that was not an excuse for you to get up and leave.
Oh no, I was gonna say this is perfect. I still got a little bit left in here.
Yep.
So I'm gonna pour one out for Fritz.
Well done, Fritz.
Into your lap.
This is good TV right here.
And now we have to pause so Brian can go change pants.
Hopefully there's no like power, outlets anywhere near there.
No, I actually poured it into a bucket.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
My next question is, why do you have a bucket sitting at your desk where you're recording this? He's been watching Demons over and over again. Huh?
We all had buckets.
Yes.
No,
I mean,
no. I don't even have a pot to piss in. Anyway, gang, we are talking about 1984's Murder Rock. Notice there's a hyphen in the name, Murder Rock, Dance of Death. And you've got, is that a Blu-ray? Is that a special edition slipcase Blu-ray?
This is a special edition slipcase Blu-ray, which I'm sad that John can't be here because I know how much he loves these things.
Yeah.
And then here, ready? This is the
alternate artwork.
Oh, wow.
Alternate artwork from 1984, Murder Rock. Coming your way.
Directed by Lucio Fulci.
Yes.
If you had told me that this was a Fulci film, like if you'd blacked out the director's name, I don't think I would have believed you. Now let's just get this out of the way, because as I mentioned to AC, he started watching it yesterday, first time I believe, after I a few hours after I'd seen it, and I tried to warn him mostly warn him from turning it off, because I said this is one of those movies that a rare film that I was frustrated by, somewhat bored to tears by until the end. Until the end, which I think completely redeems everything else in the movie and made me Usual Suspects style go back and reevaluate everything that I'd seen. Now, I still can't speak for all of it because there is a whole lot of dancing in this movie. Lots of dancing, but only 2 songs, one of which is played over and over again. Oh my gosh.
Although Keith Emerson is tickling the old synthesizer throughout this entire friggin' movie.
I wish he was tickling more because that would have helped
me. This movie tickled everything on me.
I'm going to go on record right now saying I will watch anything as long as I know there's somebody to talk about it, with afterwards.
I'm saying, like, we could have had an amazing time had we watched this together.
Knowing that this was the gold at the end of the rainbow for me, because I'm watching this going, I'd heard this wasn't a good movie. And
From who?
The World at Large.
It's a world I don't want to live in.
That's right. So you don't have to. But The World at Large is not a big fan of this movie. And I was kind of like, which is why I'd never gotten around to it. But I'm like, awesome. I get to check this off the list. I get to get another Fulci bingo space. And as I'm watching, I'm like going, wow, much like you, Ian. I was like, yeah, Fulci. This is not the Fulci we know from, just a few years prior, where he's doing Zombie and House by the Cemetery. He really goes a whole other way because, MTV was rocking it. And so it feels like this is his entry into the world of music video, only to be bettered by, Fatal Frames a decade later.
Well, let's rewind the tape. First of all, you AC, you rattle off a couple of Fulci films. Name some of the other ones that maybe we have talked about on this show. Give the class a refresher on Mr. Fulci.
New York Ripper.
New York Ripper, Lizard in a Woman's Skin. What's the one from 19? Oh, Don't Torture a Duckling. Thank you.
Did we do one on top of the other here? Yeah.
We have not.
No.
That's a good one.
Perversion Story. Yeah, it's great.
Like
Love it.
But I will say, just thinking about those movies again, I stand by. I can't believe this is the same guy. This is like Lucio Fulci's.
Versatile.
It's his Flashdance. That's what this movie is.
Oh yeah.
Specifically in one scene, we got it as the thumbnail on this. That's like his version of Jennifer Beals doing her thing. Which, if they had been playing Maniac over that song instead of the Paranoia, I probably would have given this movie instant 6 stars. But all right. So now that you've given us the Fulci rundown, AC, would you be so kind? And then Brian, I'm going to let you loose as the defender on this panel of this film, the advocate, I dare say. I want to let you say your piece. Then we can talk about it. And then I'm going to come back around to your side, I think, on this, because on balance, I think this movie, there's a lot here that's awesome, but it's some of the execution. I'm like, it feels like a lot of it was padding for time. But AC, what's this movie about?
If it's okay, I would actually love to hear one of Brian's oral interpretations of the back jacket of that fancy Blu-ray.
Ooh.
Would you be willing to do us the honor?
Of course. I'm checking to see if the alternate one has a different 80s description or whatever. But this is actually from Scorpion Releasing.
We love Scorpion.
Came out a few years back. I think there's a new one out.
Vinegar Syndrome, I think, has one out, right?
Yeah. It almost enticed me to triple dip because I think I got another one somewhere. But
is it just is it a new 4K or is it just a different package of features or what's the?
I think everything is everything being released now is UHD 4K extravaganza, the definitive thing,
Yeah. But Vinegar Syndrome tends to put some good extra features on there.
Yeah, nothing against Vinegar Syndrome. I love them.
No,
I love everybody.
Well,
this is awesome. If you already have this, I would just say this Blu-ray, this version is, in my opinion, definitive. So,
all right.
Is it legible?
Yeah, get to reading, son.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I have my bifocal contacts in, so it's it's weird. When you reach a certain age, and you're just
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Can you hold it up to the screen so that AC can read the jacket?
I can't make any promises, folks. That's why
From Italian horror legend Lucio Fulci.
Yeah.
The creator of Zombie and the Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Comes the ultimate music thriller nightmare. The world of dance is brutal. The rehearsals are grueling. The competition is fierce. This is crazy. This is
I love this. Keep going.
Yeah.
It's like a poster. Yeah.
Right. A huge, all these blurbs, The competition is fierce. at the arts for that's so funny too. Like I'm just gonna randomly like pause, by the way. So it was a bad idea to give me
So this is gonna be a 2-hour class,
But
is what you're saying.
Can I retract the talking stick?
the
Yes.
arts, the building called the Arts for the Living Center. It's like hilarious. Like I
Oh,
feel
we're
like
gonna
they
talk about their electric bill.
yeah. In New York City. So I was gonna mention that this is a great double pairing if you love New York Ripper. Like put this on afterwards, and I guarantee you're gonna have an amazing
It's
time.
like he never left New York.
Let's
Fulci
use
takes
some of
Manhattan.
the same sets, you know.
Yeah, why not?
The best of the best are dying for a part in a major production, but only a select few will be chosen. Now, the contenders are being narrowed down at the studio at the hands of a killer who uses a deadly hat pin.
Yes,
Hat pin. Yeah, I guess it's a hat pin, right?
it's a hat pin.
Hat pin to pierce women's hearts, which I believe is like super poetic when it comes to like that's why I love this as a Giallo, because like the death scenes in this movie are like, and by the way, this is like twofold, because I know you said they're going to let me loose in terms of like, you know, advocating for this film, so I'm kind of double
it's a mistake
advocating.
I won't make again.
Who recommended this movie?
Yeah. Oh, trust
By
me.
the way,
I remember distinctly who recommended.
if you're watching this episode directly after the last episode, which was a kind of an intelligent spoof of the entire genre, right? The editor. This actually works well as like a, you know,
yeah, because it's
if you watch
of something, spoof of movie making.
What? I can't believe you guys hate this movie.
All right, no. So okay, I'm gonna pull the assistant teacher veto card and say it's a school for living center. There's dancers. There's a shot at a Broadway show. The schedule has been pulled in by 2 weeks, and out of the entire repertoire of students, only 3 are eligible to even be in the show.
How'd you do that so succinctly, Ian? That's so weird.
I'm sorry. I don't have the jacket to read off of. But and all of a sudden, people are being horribly murdered. It's unique because we do have a black gloved killer, and we see that black glove always coming into frame with a little square of chloroform to drug and knock out the victim. They fall down. The top is ripped open, or the blouse is, ripped off, and then a hat pin is inserted into the heart, right below the breast, instantly, I guess, killing the person. Bodies are discovered, and now there's a big mystery. And we have the head of this dance academy. She is trying to figure out who is murdering her girls, while also reliving the trauma of an accident in which years before she had been hit by a hit and run mysterious motorcycle driver that derailed her own Broadway ambitions, so that she ended up becoming a teacher. She never got over it, but in these dreams, she imagines the black turtlenecked assailant stalking her. And she actually runs into the guy because she sees him on a billboard in real life. And they meet and they get into a bit of a relationship, but not all is as it seems. Could he be our killer? Well, we'll find out.
That's not on this jacket, sir. None of that is on this jacket.
I hope I described the right movie. Did we talk about? We're talking about the same thing. That'd be embarrassing.
I love the scene where they sit down together, and and somebody says something about, it's the fortune teller comes over and like goes,
"Oh yeah,
you are a murderer," and her response is, "Oh, silly." And I'm like, there's literally a murderer like in your midst, and anyway.
But are you saying that fortune teller might not have been accurate? Anyway,
have you ever seen that before with like the sticks, like as fortunes? Like I've never in my life.
Oh no, yeah, they
before this movie,
and then they drop them, but not usually. What they do is they put the sticks down and then they let them go, and from how they fall is how you determine the fortune. I hadn't seen anything where he like pulls it out and like reads the fortune cookie on the stick.
I'd never seen that either. Wow.
Right. Only in this movie I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Can you
Like
do
not
the
in
same
real
thing with?
life.
Can you do the same thing with those Pocky? Those are fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Anyway,
There's so many things in this movie you've never seen before and will never see again.
That only exist in this movie.
That's right.
Hey, I hope so. I do want to pull over. I'm going to try and get in a better habit of this, of stopping for comments, of shoving them all the way at the end. But we also have from Jonas, great interview with Celluloid Dreams, Ian.
Oh,
Yes.
fantastic.
Folks out there, if you missed it, we did an Accademia Giallo Credito Extra a couple weeks ago with Guido and Lucas Henkel, who, speaking of boutique Giallo film labels, they run Celluloid Dreams. We talked about Short Night of Glass Dolls, but most importantly, we talked about what it takes to start your own genre distribution company. And if you haven't watched it, their story is amazing. It is literally them doing like the whole thing without a background in any of this. Go for it.
Can I just mention, like, I saw like an Accademia Giallo thing pop up, and I was like, oh my god, am I missing like the show or whatever? And then I started watching it, and I was like, man, this is super entertaining. I love all the behind the scenes stuff. Like they had to discuss like bringing some of these classics to like like in people's hands or whatever. They're just like. They're heroes without capes, I want to call them. And I want to just mention,
well done.
I'm available for commentary if you want to reach
out. Just as long as it's not off the back of a jacket and you have glass.
Right. I mean, it might be
one or the other. One or the other, exactly.
It might be a 6-hour commentary on a 1.5-hour movie, but
just keep playing. Just like blank, black space. Brian's still talking.
The other one, YRN says, yes, I agree. That was a pleasant convo. Didn't know they were father and son company. Honestly, neither did I until. If you saw the whole interview, I discovered this while talking to them.
Nice.
I wasn't quite sure what their relationship was. So yeah. All right. Now back to our regularly scheduled live stream already in progress. So yeah, there is a lot of dancing. And, is this Fulci's attempt to do a Suspiria type of thing? Except in the Giallo like genre, instead of mysticism, it's, a masked or a coat-wearing gloved killer. I don't know what the deal is here, but it's a very strange film.
It's a beautiful film. It's a film, like, if I may, okay, because I know you guys are just going to lambaste this over the fire, which I'm trying to prevent because this movie is goddamn, like, if you cut me open, you'll see like some of.
If I cut you open, I'm going to lambaste you.
This movie is part of my DNA. This movie is part of everything that I love. Like it's a perfect, like,
everything makes sense now.
Say you're doing like a Giallo themed party or whatever, just like you're having like people over. This movie is perfect to just have playing in the background.
I could see that.
Just like,
it's a great background.
Every second of this movie.
Yeah, there's so much
every
happening
second
visually.
of this movie, there's something going on visually, auditorily, like audioly or whatever you want to, orally.
Sure.
It's great.
Can you, speaking of visuals, was it explained why the lights go up and down? Did I miss that?
For effect. Come on, guys.
No. Okay, so there's nothing in
6 years into Accademia Giallo.
There's nothing in the school that talks about like we're trying to save money on the electric bill, and so we're just going to dim the lights every 5 seconds or so.
Like, have you ever seen a decapitator machine? Like ever in your life?
No, I have not. And I
felt like you're
on that.
Starting a poem there.
Have you ever?
But here's as far as those strobing lights, there are. I have a couple of answers, or at least thoughts on that. One,
did they refer to Friday the 13th?
No.
Oh, if you can connect this movie to Friday the 13th.
I'll get there, but got to ramp up. But no, there's a couple of like during the crime scenes. It is. I've never seen this before in a movie. Like so much else in this film.
Yeah.
Sorry, I make that weird noise. But when the cops show up and they're taking the pictures of the crime scene, they have these crazy like giant bulb setups. Yes. And it's almost like the opening of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like and it opens up, like it blows out the entire scene. But then also, AC, what you may be referring to is at night when they're closing up the school, they have, it's like the end of Aliens when they have like, you have 2 minutes to get to minimum safe distance. It's
Right.
like, we are closing down the school in 5 minutes. Get out. And like there's
And
a
meanwhile,
voice and
it's like,
the lights are going off and on, and it's really spooky and crazy, and it doesn't feel safe. Like if I'm walking down the hallway trying to get to the exit, all
Or
of a
taking
sudden,
a shower.
well, right, but it's
Yeah,
not like there's
yeah.
emergency lights. It's like they go completely dark
Yep.
or they're completely on. There's no like footlights or anything.
nobody in this goddamn movie is in a hurry, right? Like,
No.
oh yeah, I'm gonna go take a shower.
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna
have
go take a
coffee."
shower. I got 5 minutes for you lock up. Awesome. I got this.
They're like fucking taking their sweet time, like in
Yep.
the locker room, just like,
So
oh,
good.
pooty-doo-doo.
Well,
Yeah,
kissing their
hey.
Mickey Mouse doll. I was like,
Love it.
what is
Yeah.
happening right now?
That Mickey Mouse doll, that was definitely a touch. I don't know.
This movie is in a completely different world than you and I will ever understand.
Again, I'm
I
so
love
glad
that
you were here
Lucio-
at the end.
I love that Lucio like understands that world, like, and
Does
it's
he?
put out into this world as such. You know what I mean? For us to discover and then
Yeah.
be like, what the fuck is this movie? You
Yep.
know? It's
Yep.
great.
Well, we
Love it.
also have an appearance by an actor who is Brian. Is it safe to call her your friend? The star of
Say
Demons
so, yeah.
and
I
the
would hope
say.
so.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
like I'll put it to you like this. We were at a wasteland.
It's a convention, not an actual like post-apocalyptic thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Not the end of the beyond.
Cinema Wasteland in Strongsville, Ohio. We were sitting off to the side, sharing poetry with each other. Like we, so I set up like an interview or whatever that weekend with her.
With whom? Let's not bury the lead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jaretta, yeah, like which I think in this movie she's credited as Jaretta Marie.
Jaretta Marie Fields. Yes, that was a surprise. Yeah.
But yeah, she's great. She's an amazing individual. Her soul is like unlike anyone you'll ever meet. And she's supposed to have some stories that she's supposed to be sending my way, but you know,
Well,
she's in New Orleans time, which means anything.
it was delightful to see her show up. It was like, oh, I wasn't expecting. I mean, Olga Carlatos and Ray Lovelock get the kind of big billing, but yeah, seeing Dretta pop up was like, oh, fantastic.
And that's the thing with this movie. Like, there's a lot of actors in this movie that you've seen elsewhere, like the dude from Tenebrae and
the guy from Deep Red.
Stigma. Yeah, the guy from Deep Red. Like, there's all these like, oh, that's the dude from this, and this is the guy from that, and she's from this. Like, there's a lot of that going on here. And I think personally, it's just my opinion, but I think Lucio uses his pieces very well. Like, everybody is very memorable in this movie. Jaretta's crying is super memorable. I think she cries in like every other scene.
She's the assistant to
Margie.
Candace, who's the Margie. She's the assistant to Candace, who's running the studio.
Right.
The one who's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place of having this like new deadline and having to like inform everybody that not everyone's going to be part of the show. But in fact, she is Candace comes to become a suspect. Margie believes that she might be the one behind these murders and does in fact she does attack her. But she is
flat out accuses her.
Right. But even to the point where she gets chloroformed. Now, in my recollection, because there's so much going on in this movie, I'm going to get something wrong. But did Candace see that it was Margie coming to attack her? Or did she get taken from behind with the chloroform? Because she's knocked out. Right.
I don't think she saw her. Like, or if she did, she didn't recognize her. Although there's that
would be really awkward during the next class. Like, hey, what's going on there?
But maybe I'm thinking of something else. But I watched this movie twice in a drunken stupor over the last couple nights. But the scene where she opens the door and she's like, "Oh, like, why are you dressed that way?" Like, is that the scene that we're talking about?
There were a couple of those. There were a couple of those, very much like Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
With Mr. Christie. Hey, what are you doing out in this mess? And then he gets the knife, But there were a couple of those scenes where the victim or soon-to-be victim recognizes the killer coming in through the door.
Right.
There was some really effective moments. Like, this movie takes a while to get going, and then once it does work, but it's so out of context because a lot of the girls in the class, I feel, kind of look the same, and you're never quite sure who is supposed to be the main girl or if they're all just kind of disposable dead meats. So when we switch to, hey, now one of them is babysitting this girl in a wheelchair, and they're looking at insects. Uh-oh. Yes?
Well, I'm
You
just
in the
saying,
back.
like that's great and all, but how about that one leotard where you could see that girl's butt crack? Like,
You mean
you know,
the
there's-
one? Just the one.
yeah, you know, like there's things in this movie that are just
I've never seen a
amazing.
butt crack before.
Well, not
Ryan,
like that. Not,
you've got to get out more.
yes.
I
I'm
wow,
living in
I-
my mother's basement.
I
I
can't.
like your mother's decor.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to whatever I was. Oh, yes. So is it Jill?
Butt
Is
crack
that the
in the
one?
mind.
Yes.
Yes, yes. It is
Yeah.
Jill.
So Jill is the one who's babysitting, and she goes downstairs, and the girl, is it Molly?
Molly.
Molly. She's the kid who's being watched. She's up in this kind of like a loft, and she can see Jill through the slats, kind of sitting on the couch. And all of a sudden, there's a knock or a doorbell as she goes over, and Molly
She's
has a
taking photos.
camera. She's taking rapid fire photos of the attack, and she
Yeah.
manages to stay hid. And those photos come in handy-ish to the cops because our one inspector guy, who, you know, very good at slurping espresso but not necessarily solving cases.
Lieutenant Borges.
Yes. Wow.
He's great.
He's looking at the slides with his second in command or whatever, like, yeah, this is all great, you're not showing me anything. They finally catch a close-up of the killer's jacket with the needle coming out for the attack, which is cute, but you wouldn't be able to see that angle from where Molly
Doesn't
was,
matter.
so it doesn't line
Doesn't
up.
matter.
You're right, it doesn't, because nothing
Mom's
matters.
a really
Nothing
good
matters.
photographer.
Doesn't matter. One bit.
But that, even though it's like, oh, this doesn't really help, later when it is revealed who the killer is, they talk about the kind of the flipping of that image and kind of what it means. So there is some significance to it. I do want to get back to our character. What is the name of our model guy? Oh yeah, George Webb, played by Ray Lovelock.
Yep.
He's the guy who is in the billboard man who's in Candace's dreams, and they end up in a relationship. She tells him all about the motorcycle accident that derailed her career. Now, this guy, I feel like he is a cross visually between Christian Bale and John Ritter, if you can imagine that. And he's always in a turtleneck, either black or red. And like, oh, this
Very
is they're
suave.
Now,
and he's playing a hell of a Fulci, or whoever wrote this for this character, is doing a hell of a job of red herring it all over the place. Because I'm thinking
Everywhere.
the black and the red. I'm thinking like the black and red scarf from previous Accademia Giallo discussions. Sorry, AC, jump in. You wanted to say
I was
something?
just going to say that's Ray Lovelock of Let Sleeping Corpses Lie fame. 10 years later, and having only seen him in that movie, I didn't recognize him without his sexy beard and long flowing 70s mane. So it was super cool seeing him pop up. I also want to just throw out, like, our little girl Molly, that is one of the folks who says Bob about 1 billion times in House by the Cemetery, also directed by Lucio Fulci.
Wow, trivia abounds. I love it.
I had a lot of time to look things up while the dance numbers were going on.
I'm not gonna lie. I was doing a little bit of scrolling, a little bit of jotting like notes. Maybe starting my grocery list while this
was
going on.
Was I the only one rewinding like the dance scenes and all that's like, yeah.
Oh, here you go.
I like the choreography.
Well,
it's great.
Second Friday the 13th reference. I was thinking about the morgue scene from Final Chapter again. I think that's the second time I brought that up in one of these shows. But with the aerobicize. But that's the thing. Maybe it was titillating back in 1984, and yes, you can rewind it. Yes. But I've got more risque things at my fingertips. And Brian, by the way, when you said earlier that this movie is in your DNA, I immediately flashed to that bucket because I heard like my DNA is on this movie. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I hope it's not true.
Well, so if I may, boys, because
last time you may,
somebody has to be the voice of reason like amongst us, like with this movie,
No,
because
carry on.
like like I'm saying this, but I'm prefacing
No, really,
it
carry on.
by saying that I'm a big Ninja 3 Domination fan, right?
Yes.
So take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, right? But this movie has
Is
it
that
all.
a Giallo?
Like, if you consider the 80s jolly, right? Like the movies that came out there are maybe a small, tiny, sparsely thrown handful of like iconic like Giallo films, right? I would actually throw this one in that mix because it's a different flavor, but it's all 80s. Like, it's when you consider like a Giallo and how it references like 60s and 70s grandeur, like everything is just beautifully, fashion is amazing, music is amazing, everything's in your face. This does that, but for the 80s. Like, I think this movie is excessively 80s. Like,
this feels like a canon film. It feels like a Golden Globe.
Yes, exactly.
Production.
That's what I'm saying.
Excellent.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what Fulci was aiming for, because it was everywhere you
Nailed
turn.
it.
Like, yeah, like there's a Chuck Norris poster like behind you. There's like, people in like headbands running around and like Michael Jackson jackets and all that. Like, this movie just bleeds that into your lap. And I think it does a fine job of displaying all the jolly elements, like when you consider like what I feel is always like a nice warm blanket when I see like a fucking black glove killer with a needle that you've never seen before in your life, like show up, right? Like, that's what you get when you see something for the first time from the 70s. Like, I think this movie has that in spades. The only thing I will say, like, with this movie is, yes, sometimes it feels like, like Fulci phones in like a whole plot fucking device. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things in this movie where you feel that it's like a little bit lazy, with the writing or whatever,
Like,
but
specifically, like what? Let's talk about
like when Fulci calls and says, "Oh, I wouldn't trust that guy," and blah blah blah. Like you don't have to do that. Like, there's other ways to do that stuff. I think that was just more, like they maybe ran out of a way to shoot that particular thing. So it's like, and plus he enjoys inserting himself everywhere.
And I don't think anybody who's a Fulci fan is sad when
no, please.
Up, so
before you can continue your lambasting of
this
gorgeous masterpiece of the 80s.
Here's the thing, Brian. Like, I'm watching this and I'm laughing and I think it's ridiculous, but I'm having a good time. And
that's exactly right there. Period.
That's all that matters.
That's it. That's all you need to say.
That's all that matters. Because
has this film not entertained you?
It has indeed. And I'm picturing this audition that this poor girl has to go through, and she's just writhing around and all over the stage, and they're spraying water all over her. I'm like, no audition in the world has ever happened like this. And that's fun.
Or maybe in the early days of Miramax. Sorry. Anyway.
Whoa.
Wow.
Clean off.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. It was one of those. I was just like going, man, I love, and this is why I love Italian horror, is because you're always going to see something that they don't care if it makes sense. It doesn't make any sense that the lights go up and down. It doesn't matter that people are taking showers 5 minutes before.
Fucking amazing. Like,
well, exactly. Because it inherently gives you the suspense, right? Yep. It's going to pull the lights down and you're like, okay, now I'm going to wait and see what happened when the lights come up.
And that's precisely what it's doing. It's setting up like a certain thing.
Stylistic and it works. But again, it doesn't make a lick of sense and the Italians don't care. And I love it.
And I think that's sort of my critique of it, because maybe someone's going to correct me out there. I don't know if I've seen anything that's quite as confusing as what we're seeing in this movie. Because, as we've discussed, and as Kitley would be yelling at me in his own inimitable way if he were here, demanding sensicalness from a Giallo film. Yeah, sense is a fool's errand. But
I can almost hear him from Monster Bash, just like.
He's probably watching. He's probably watching right now, getting ready to yell in the comments if he's not making a sale. So I think what I'm trying to say is, AC, you hit the nail on the head. Maybe in the 80s there were dance schools that had these like automated systems where they're shutting things down in 5 minutes and they're strobing the lights and they got this weird automated voice and people are going to take showers. But unless you're in that world, unless you're like one of the 0.00065% of people who would watch this movie and say, oh yeah, they totally captured it.
Yep.
I feel like there's almost a responsibility to do something that, let's take one or two of those ridiculous layers out and make it more widely accessible, right? Because that kills the suspense for me. The lights go out and she's getting attacked and everything, but I'm still sitting there thinking,
Why are the
really,
lights going down?
yeah, and what do they really have that weird
Really?
voice going on? And by the time they got to the second one, I'm like, okay, this is the world I'm living in, so I guess. But even then, I'm like
See, I
disengaged
would
because
have
I'm
thought
having
we
to.
would have killed that little circuit in your
Yeah,
brain by
same,
now.
same. I was,
You know,
dude, I was right there. with you.
I'm actually surprised and impressed by your resilience.
That's why you're a doctor, AC. That's why you are a doctor.
Here's the problem, guys. I review
Wait,
a
there's
lot
a
of
problem?
I review a lot of movies that are outside the genre, so I can't completely kill
Right,
that
right.
switch.
Yeah.
Okay,
I hear you.
right.
I'm sorry about
We're
that.
talking about a guy that like set up a whole sequence with tarantulas that eat somebody's face. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like that's what he does. Like he sets up these little things. He kind of off to the side. Hey, this is what I'm about to do. So I'm just kind of giving
I think
you
this is
a,
cool.
a
That
light
was in the realm of,
explanation,
but
right?
that was in the realm of the supernatural we're talking about. This is just
True.
a person who's on a revenge trip in New
That
York
was
City.
in the realm of completely something goddamn else. You know what
Well,
mean?
I
Like
think
the
we can
beyond.
call something goddamn else also supernatural. I think that
Like when you look at Zombie, right? When you look at Lucio Fulci's Zombie, right?
starring Olga Carlatos.
It's not a typical zombie movie. You know, when you look at New York Ripper, it's not a typical 80s slasher / Giallo. Like all these movies that he lays out, even going like when I think he was like refined more, like less chaotic and out of like, out of his gourd with ideas and movies or whatever. But back when in the late 60s, early 70s, when his output was phenomenal, right? It was much more accessible. It was much more like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this, right? This one, it's almost like he's like doing lines of coke every movie or whatever, and he's just like, this is what works. This is what looks amazing, and I don't give a fuck what it is supposed to explain or whatever. Like,
God damn it! How come Dario can get away with it? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think because honestly, I don't know. I think it comes down to the matter of degree, honestly. Like you can get away with one, maybe two questionable things in your stylistic setup. But once you get into that third or fourth layer, it's just like, no, really, what's going on here? I don't believe that this has ever existed.
We're also talking, remember like when we were talking about
Gates
Rocky
of Hell?
IV? Like Rocky IV being like the total 80s one out of the entire franchise.
Yep.
Like I think that's what's going on here. Like during that specific time period, I just feel like everything was just so crazy and bonkers. Like, okay, now walk with me.
And my thoughts on Rocky IV are well established in that conversation.
Well,
that's 100%. I guess
that's the thing. Like there's an aesthetic to it, and you can love that era, but I think just from a purely empirical standpoint, we don't necessarily go, those are good movies. We go, I love that movie.
People do.
That movie makes me happy. But I think a lot of other people would be like, it's pretty cheesy. It's pretty, glitzy. It's style over substance.
And I'm glad we're talking about that, because this kind of syncs up with what we're talking about here. Because with the Rocky films, Rocky 1 is, a legit like award season masterpiece. Rocky 2 is a legitimate continuation of that story. Rocky 3, as we discovered, or as I discovered watching it really for the first time, I think is a solid movie. It gets a little bit, kind of, I think, taken down a peg because Mr. T's the villain and, oh, look, Hulk Hogan's in it. But I think it's a legit continuation of the story. What's that?
That beach scene is amazing, though.
Of course, of course. Yeah. But by the time you get to Rocky 4, they're doing something that's completely different and, to your point, kind of totally 80s and not in the same mold. So if you're like sitting down watching it, you're like, wait, what the hell? It's like going from Tim Burton's Batman to Joel Schumacher's Batman. You're like, wait a second, this is not an experience. With this, we've talked about other Fulci films, which, yes, they are weird, but I don't think they've ever been this kind of like bonkers and this 80s and I even like New York Ripper, which was like 1980, I think.
82.
That has 82. That has the grime and the sleaze. If you told me that these two films are made by the same person, I would not believe you.
Really?
I don't. Yeah, honestly, I don't.
But I think you're right. I think you're right, Ian. Like, I think there's a lot of flash dance influence here. I think there is that feeling of the Golden Globus canon years. I think all of that is, permeating this, and Fulci's going, hey, why not? Because Fulci, he had a vision, but he also was a commercial director. Like, he was trying to have hits. And so I can see him wanting to do something that feels, like the stuff that Argento's doing. And he wants to do something that's like what Cannon's doing. And, like I enjoyed this movie, and I enjoy it in the same way that, like, where I was saying, like, I don't think Ninja 3 is a great movie, but I love that movie.
What?
It's super fun. Like, but I'm not
Do
going
I have to kick you off the show now?
What? Which one?
You talking smack about Ninja 3 not
I'm
being
not
great.
talking smack. I'm saying it's a fun movie.
Ian, you like Ninja 3? I don't think that's ever been discussed.
Not on this show, certainly, but
Yeah.
on other shows, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Ninja 3 is great fun. It's not a good movie, but it's great fun. And I think that's what we can say about this movie. It's great fun. I mean, I want to circle back really quick, unless you had someplace you need to go. But
I think you do, sir, after talking all that. No,
I'm not talking smack. What is wrong with you folks? Jaretta, going back to Jaretta, because the way they prove her innocence, kind of going back to the idea of the nonsense and the plot, the way they prove her innocence is that she can't kill that person. Well, she surely couldn't have killed all these other people because she couldn't kill it. I'm like, since when is that proof of your innocence that you're unable to murder in this moment? I was like, wow, that
It checked out for me, and it checked out for me, and I moved on. You know what I mean? Like, but that's the thing. Like with this movie, like I already knew what it was going into it the first time I watched it, because it was all, like it. So there are certain movies, right? When you hear about them, like Gnats. I'm sorry, did I say Gnats? Rats, Knights of Terror.
I want to see Nat. I want to see Bruno Mattei's Nats.
Like, there's certain movies that when you hear about them, it's like, you know what you're getting yourself into. You know what I'm saying? This movie, I kind of preface my experience with that, like, concept going into it. And I was like floored that I had to do that. You know what I mean? Like, because when I watched it, it was like, this is so much better than what I was expecting. And I was expecting extravagance and all that shit, right? So for me, like, and mind you, this is a guy that grew up watching, what's that? Remember that show that came out, Fame?
Sure.
Like I used to watch that shit all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I've never been, like, if you ever watch me on the dance floor, I'm definitely not a dancer. You know what I'm saying? But like these movies, I don't know, they just do something to me. Like, I freaking love Electric.
That's I know we've established the bucket, Brian.
I'm glad you brought up Fame, because like the high level competition was totally like, I mean, that's one more thing that he's just borrowing and throwing into his awesome 80s bucket and stirring it around.
But it gives you that perfect setup.
Always coming back to buckets.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you that perfect setup. Like, when you watch Blood and Black Lace, you get that fashion house, right? This is sort of the same thing, but 80s style, with the dance house instead of a fashion house, right? Like, you have all these like things that, yes, you're grabbing them from all these different elements, but I challenge you to give me something else that reminds you of Murder Rock, because nothing exists like this movie. And that's what I love about Fulci movies, because when you consider The Beyond, when you consider Fulci's Zombie, when you consider everything that he put out in his later years, like, you'll never see anything like that ever again. And people always pan them because they're like, oh, it's not what I expected when I, sat down to watch a Fulci movie. But you have to consider, like, these are the last movies that in his waning career, right? Like, everybody looks at it as a waning career, but he was trying shit that nobody else had the guts to even think about doing on screen. You know what I mean? And if this movie, right, gives you that 80s excess, then why not, like, enjoy it? Because if you grew up in that time, you know that this is basically just like referencing everything that happened around it. You know what I mean? That's all it is. Like, it's just a reflection of its time. And that's what any movie should be. And if you enjoy that, this movie is definitely up your alley. So
Maybe. I mean, yeah, everyone's mileage
maybe.
is
Come
gonna
on.
vary. But look, it's the same. It's the
You
same
were just
reason.
defending Ninja 3: The Domination. So come on.
Yeah, because
to
it's that's a
quote another 1984 movie, Amadeus, you are passionate, but you do not persuade.
I don't care to persuade, man.
Brian, I understand where you're coming from.
By the way, Ian, like I have like right over there, I have a signed
another bucket. Sorry, what?
I have a signed does it go this way? Sho Kasugi.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
When did you meet Sho Kasugi?
That's a story for another time. But
when we do Ninja 3: The Domination on this show.
yes.
No, we've
I'd be
already
so
covered it, I
down.
think, on the spoiler room a couple of years ago. All the ninja movies. Okay, so, but what I want to say is it's kind of the same thing of why I couldn't get into Stranger Things. It was all references to the time period, a time period that the show's creators hadn't even really lived through.
Sure.
So I'm like, if you're just throwing aesthetics at me, because I lived through the 1980s, I wasn't as old as these, characters, right? But it's like, if hey, look, leg warmer. By the way, the alternate title of this is not Fulci's Flashdance. It's Blood and Black Leg Warmers.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. But for me, it's just got to be more. Now, I want to say, Brian, hold on a second. I want to say, in retrospect, I think when I watch this movie again, and I might once I pick up that Blu-ray.
Yep.
I think I'm going to love it.
You can have it. You want it? I'll give it to you.
Really?
Like if you promise to do amazing things with this, then it is yours.
Involving a bucket?
I was like, this sounds like, some kind of
anyway, I'll take you up on that offer. But no, what I'm saying is when I watch this movie again, I think I'm going to look at it in a completely different light because of the ending, which we will, as we come to the end of this show,
but we're
going to talk about.
Just because I like your point that you were like explaining with the Stranger Things thing, but just know that this movie is legit from 1984.
That's right.
And
yes.
Stranger Things is referencing things in this present time.
This is authentic 1984. This
exactly.
This is Rhinestone.
Exactly.
This is
this
is Staying Alive.
Rhinestone.
But that's sort of my point. Like whether you're in the 2000s talking about 1984 or in 1984 talking about 1984, like just like, hey, look at this crazy culture and all these like weird pop things and fashions. That's not necessarily enough to hang your hat on.
I think it's different, though. I do think it's different,
totally different
being in 1984, doing 1984 than being in 2020 and doing 1984.
Well, but I guess the point is, or one of the point I'm trying to make is neither this movie nor Stranger Things I felt had the narrative substance to back up the coat of 80s glam paint that it was like, hey, remember this? I'm like, yes. Do you remember good storytelling? The answer is probably no.
Have you ever watched?
I'm going to give this one the leg up on Stranger Things. Sorry, go ahead.
Have you guys ever?
See what you did there.
This guy right here is like master of puns, okay, especially movie puns. Have you ever watched Von Trier?
Lars von Trier?
Yeah, his climax movie, because that references Murder Rock.
Yeah.
Climax.
Watch it again. Like there's
I don't think I've seen it.
References Murder Rock, but like that is being done in I think that came out in 2019 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that same sort of weird concept is being done in a modern time. You know what I mean? Like it's not necessarily out of bounds. It's yes, Fulci does a lot of weird, crazy shit in that movie that are totally out of bounds, out of the realm of like expectations and believability, right? When you get into that, pretty much anything goes, in my opinion. Like you're talking about entertainment, you're talking about, hey, I'm setting this up for you, but I'm solely setting it up for the climax of what I'm about to show you. You know what I mean? That's what he does here. And it doesn't matter where he lives with that. Like for him, I think the climax is everything. And leading up to it, well, we got to get there. We got to patch it up. We got to do this. We got to, create the street to get there. But the punch is what matters.
And that's why I'm saying on the rewatch, because as I think back through the film, especially knowing where these characters end up, things are starting to, the pieces of the puzzle are like coming together earlier. Like in keep me honest here, because you watched it twice recently, although you were inebriated, which I totally understand.
So it counts
But
as watching it once.
right? He watched it once, but he saw it,
have
double vision. But no, in Candace's dream sequence, where the first
Yeah.
time that we see our George, is
Mhm.
he wearing a motorcycle jacket or is it just a turtleneck? I
I
feel like he was
think
wearing
it's
a
just a
jacket.
turtleneck. I
Okay.
think it. Well, I'm thinking back to it. I think you're right. It might have been a jacket
Because what I'm
because
thinking
it
is
was like a
if
big collar and stuff. I think that's what
and I think
like
he
in my
had the
head.
I think he had the turtleneck and then like a jacket or something over
Right.
it. But what I'm thinking is that's brilliant because that is her piecing together like subconsciously, oh, that's the
Mhm.
guy in the motorcycle that, ended my career. So
Yes.
I
Yep.
think there's a lot going on in this
Which we haven't
movie.
even discussed. Like that whole traumatic experience that like
Well,
catapulted her into what she is, you know?
and that's why we're going to jump right to the ending.
Great.
The ending, which I don't know if it was deliberately ripped off, but you can't watch the climax of this movie and not think of the movie Sliver, the Sharon Stone thriller from 1996.
Oh, that other masterpiece that came out.
Yes, which gave us UB40's "Can't Help Falling in Love," the one of the few covers that I think matches and or surpasses the original song.
Mhm.
But no, at the end of that movie, Sharon Stone walks into this building in her high rise, and I think it's Billy Baldwin has a wall, like a whole bunch of televisions set up, and he's
Mhm.
been surveilling this high rise apartment that he owns, and framing people or whatever. Candace walks into a similar room in this in like a back room of the studio and sees all of these TVs that are on, and they are showing footage of the dancers, the various girls who all of them at this point are now dead, and she's freaking out. Now, the red herring of this is that uh, George had discovered that Candace had discovered the hat pin and was it the gloves or something else, chloroform in his drawer. And so that's the evidence. Oh, he's the killer. There's a bit of a pursuit, but of course, later it turns out because Candace, spoiler alert, banner's going at the bottom, Candace is the murderer. And that stuff was planted there to make it look like George was the guy and all that stuff. So at the end of this movie, Candace walks in and she's flipping out. Now, if you're not keen on what's happening, because I had just begun to piece this together as the scene was starting, I'm like, this is brilliant because she's going in and she's seeing video footage of all of these students that she's loved and trained for years, and now they're all dead, and she's like freaking out and crying. It's like in a Friday the 13th movie, you walk in and you see all the bodies of your friends all mutilated and stuff, and the heroine, the final girl, starts crying. In this movie, it's her guilt of being confronted by these, literally she's
Yes.
enclosed by images of these victims, and then our Mr. George shows up, and then it's like the kind of the monologue of like, you were the one who ended my career, and
Mhm.
I was jealous of all these girls, and they were coming up, so I freaked out and started killing all of them. And then brilliantly, she decides that she's going to still try and frame him, and so she, gripping his hand, drives the hat pin into her own heart, and she dies. And the cops show up, and then there's more monologuing. It's like the end of Psycho all over again, and this guy walks free. Not surprising, because earlier in the film, we have a character who showed up, and he's a red herring. His name's Willie. He's like the guy who hangs around the dance studio. He is at 2 successive crime scenes within 24 hours. In one, he
Mhm.
was in the apartment of the girl right before she got murdered, and he's just still walking around. He's fine.
Yep.
They don't, yeah. He eventually, gets locked up, but it's for something he confesses to something he didn't do. This movie's nuts.
Crazy. It's bonkers. That's what's amazing about it.
Yeah.
And the lieutenant just slaps those suspects around.
Which I did not have a problem in this instance.
He'll get a confession. Watch this.
All right. So what do we think of this climax? It was this is what really saved the movie for me and told me I have to go back and watch this again because there's a lot more to it than I was giving it credit for.
Honestly, I was like, as they were walking him off, I'm like, wait, do they know that he's innocent?
He said he was innocent.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah. And I mean, I gotta say, I was kind of watching and going, I don't actually know what just happened. So I was looking forward to having this conversation because I'm like, wait, she set him up, but she's actually the killer. Who put all the screens around? Was that him? Like, I'm just like going, okay, credits, awesome. And then I could go get a sandwich. So that's kind of how I was pulling into the last few minutes of this movie.
Damn it, AC. Who did
Sorry.
set up those screens?
I-
Who pulled the tapes and had them? Oh, speaking of surveillance, there's a scene earlier on where there's it's George talking to one of the dancers that he had previously known, and Candace kind of like gives him the business. He's like, I knew her like 10 years ago. She was just a child. And then
Oh, the
like
one that comes up and like French kisses him like
Right.
immediately, like
Right.
after years of not seeing him. You know?
Yeah, and like, yeah, she was just a child back then. I'm like, this doesn't look good. But what I thought was great is they pan over to reveal that there's a camera so that it makes sense when they're being surveilled later on. But the weird thing is most cameras are like ceiling mounted or in a corner. This is literally like if I'm standing
Right
here,
there,
the camera is right here and the lens
Yeah.
is staring at them as they're
Yep.
making out. I'm like, wait, what?
It's
Sorry.
amazing. It's amazing to me that you still look for logic and things like that,
Well,
especially in a Giallo movie from the
it
80s.
pulls me off the couch into the screen so I can yell at the production designer. I'm like, no, 10 more
Like
feet.
you guys were giving me shit back when we were talking about Amsterdam, when like the frogman was like walking around like right, like and nobody could see him or sense him or whatever.
wait,
You know, he
I
could
was
slip into like
there's no
fucking
way I was giving
kitchens,
you
like
you go back and watch that episode. There's no way I was giving you shit. I was laughing right along with you.
I'm just saying, like, when it comes to logic, when it
Yeah,
comes to things
yeah.
like that, right? In later Fulci movies, like, abandoned all that you feel is logical before
Right.
you watch a movie.
So you're giving me an excuse to veto recommendations for later Fulci is what you're saying.
I'm
Only
just saying,
well,
No.
just
what it
going
is,
into those
though.
expectations.
Okay. So if we're going to be talking about later Fulci, I have to go with the disclaimer. Okay, folks, sorry, we're not discussing a real movie today. We're discussing latter Fulci. No.
It is but the thing is, like,
It's a
there's
whole other
things
aesthetic.
in this movie that inspire other filmmakers beyond. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you go in and you watch a Fulci movie, regardless of whatever it is, right? I think you can see the pure like inspiration in like later films from a Fulci movie, whether it's like something that makes sense or it's something that doesn't make sense. I think he's got such a broad catalog of things that his output, right? Like when you look at some of his like old westerns and stuff, so goddamn just like aesthetically different from like something like what's that movie, the honey movie he came out with?
The what? Oh, the
The
Devil's
Honey
Honey.
movie.
The Devil's
Yeah,
Honey.
Devil's Honey. Completely different. Like it's like night and day. It's not even. It doesn't even feel like the same filmmaker, but it is. And I think there's some joy to be mined in some of his later work because it's things that you will never see a filmmaker ever do again in their personal career, right? Like look at like somebody like a David Fincher. Do you see him ever like fucking taking the experiments that Fulci tried in an 80s Fulci movie? Like I don't ever see him doing stuff like that. And I think when it comes to talent, we know that Fulci is a talented filmmaker, storyteller, writer, all that stuff, right? But why not see him completely out of his gourd, like when he doesn't believe in things that like keep you in like this box or whatever, you know?
So
Like
does this qualify as a big swing? Is that what you think? Like that he's like just trying for something completely different?
I think it's impossible for anybody to get into Fulci's mindset like in the 80s because he was battling things like depression and loved ones dying and things like that. So at some point he kind of didn't give a fuck about what he was going to like put on screen, right? But I do think that the filmmaker, the storyteller within Fulci was at least trying to tell like a story. Did it matter how you got there? No. At this point, Fulci didn't care about how you got to his story. But I think in these movies, yes, it's a cohesive story. It's just on the way there, like you're riding a fucking ostrich into that story. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
and
Like it
I
doesn't
think
make sense.
that's my sticking point. I mean, I appreciate everything you said there, Brian. I think we started off
Especially
this
the ostrich part.
right, but we start off this class as a music lesson, and we're ending it as a meeting of the debate team. And I applaud your efforts because you are making some very convincing points. My only counter to that, and this goes back to the film critic brain where I have to like look at other types of movies, so I can't quite turn it off. It does, to me, I think, kind of matter how you get there, because honestly, it should not be my responsibility as a viewer to have to account for whatever is going on in the director's life, to say, okay, yeah, he's just going to throw a bunch of like wacky bonkers stuff in there. If I'm like watching the filmography leading up to this and being like, wait, what is this? I can appreciate this as an exercise, as a diversion. And again, maybe on rewatch, these things won't bother me as much because I'm kind of prepared for them now. But again, having all these caveats going into it, I don't think is a good thing. AC, you want to bite my head off, I can tell you.
No. My question is, do you think that is expectations? If I told you this was an avant-garde filmmaker, you'd be like, okay, I've got my avant-garde glasses on and I'm looking at it through that lens. But instead we're coming to it as a Giallo, and we're coming to it as a Fulci film. And so we're thinking, okay, this is going to be like other Gialli I've seen. This is going to be like other Fulci films I've seen. And it's not that. And so I think on first viewing, you are right to be maybe frustrated, disappointed, confused, but knowing, like you said, like coming back to this movie, knowing what it is, I think you will appreciate it more. I think I will, for sure.
Maybe. And I think part of it is because Giallo, like any genre, is wide and varied. And we've talked about a number of films where it's like, you got to let it go. It's Giallo. It doesn't have to make sense. But then we watch other Giallo films where everything or most things make sense.
Right.
And so on some level, I'm kind of comparing it to that, including Lucio Fulci.
Yep.
So I'm like, wait, why are you doing this? What's going on here? Are you playing with something? Because you're setting this up as sort of a heightened version of a realistic New York dance academy,
right,
with like a real problem, of like the concern about the girls and the competition, the Broadway and all that stuff. It's not set up as like an alternate universe parody or something where I could be like, okay, maybe none of this is supposed to make sense. So I'm trying to get into the realism of this story and connect with the characters, but then you've got camera right here.
Right.
Like, I've never been in a universe where there's been a wall-mounted camera, supposed to be a surveillance camera, because part of the point of those things is to not be obvious, right? Yeah. So that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
We're wrapping up here, so yep. I don't want to beat a dead horse, although I kind of am. So we're gonna go to some comments.
Great.
Then, we did Blood and Black Lace. We did a redo a few years afterwards, after the first discussion. Maybe I'll have to put this one on the shelf for, in a few years.
I would love it if Blood and Black Lace and Murder Rock are like the two films we go back to.
I was just going to mention
more to say.
I was going to mention before we jump into the comments, like,
sure.
Look at Tenebrae. It's weird to me, but sometimes it's looked at as like a science fiction story. Like, I don't know if you've read like certain takes of the movie or whatever, but it's almost looked at like in terms of a very dystopian kind of setting or whatever. It's very bleak. It's very like black and white almost. It's colorless. Like, I feel like elements in this movie, and I think personally, I think it's more of an 80s aesthetic, because when you look at a lot of those movies, like there's a movie called Wolfen that came out around
81.
Gregory Hines, yeah,
like it's looked at as like I've always looked at it as just like a weird anomaly, like in like werewolf telling or whatever, because it feels like it takes place in another world. Like even something like Halloween 3, like I feel like it's very like it's horror, but it's different, and I think that's what this is. It plays with a lot of different things within the Giallo genre, because by then I think people understood this is what a Giallo is, coming into the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And using all these elements, Fulci and all the rest of the Italians understood that very well, but you're also working with a different recipe in the 80s versus 10 years prior, So I think there's a lot to be said, and whether you like this movie or not, I think it has a lot going for it in terms of just entertainment value alone. So,
Brian, this might be the most eloquent and convincing that you've ever been on the show. I'm proud of you.
I fucking love this movie. That's why.
All right. Well, let's go to some comments here. YRN says, I think this was when the whole aerobic exercise thing was getting super popular in the 80s. A John Travolta, Jamie Lee Curtis love story came out after this, very much set in a similar place.
Called Perfect.
That's right. Imagine this movie with those actors. Jonas Hallberg, are you guys getting the Shameless or the Arrow 4K version of House of Laughing Windows?
Oof,
House of Laughing Windows for certain.
Love that movie.
Because I own this one, I'm not sure if I should I already discussed it earlier. Maybe I love those guys anyway, but we'll see.
Let's
see. Oh, and then I think it was just repeating this because maybe we didn't answer.
I think it's
like, why won't you listen to me? Answer my question.
Sorry, Jonas, we love
Arrow.
You. Okay.
I want to say that one's Arrow.
Okay. Well, we are. Any final thoughts?
I want to throw one last thing in. You said something about the substance of the movie, and it's funny because I had written down that I felt like the futuristic dance / exercise show that is featured in the substance. I was like, the choreography in that movie reminded me very much of the choreography in this movie. And I'm kind of like, they are absolutely going for some awesome fitness and like athleticism. I mean, Nadia Chiatti. I wanted to write down the choreographer's name because there's some really fun stuff happening there. And I was like, did they just, like as it's presented in the film, you're like, did you just learn this routine? Like, just now, like this is a thing you're picking up like as we go.
Feels it. Like
it's amazing. And, again, a lot of high energy. You see the point in the film where they're working them so hard and they're working through their tears. And I'm just like, this is really fun and intense. And I dug it. So I laughed at this movie, but I was also, giving it a big hug the entire time.
That's something I'll have to pay more attention to because honestly, a lot of the dance sequence in this movie, it washed right. I too was watching it through tears because I'm like, please, I just want to get back to the story. And then it did get back to the story. And then I was like, maybe we should go back to the dancing until the end.
I will say, normally I'm not a huge fan of musicals. Like whenever they try to insert like a dance number in movies, I'm always like, oh my God, here we go again or whatever. Right. There's a lot of good horror movies that combine a lot of musical sequences where I'm just like, I bump into those things other than this movie for whatever reason. When those freaking like I'm just all about it. Hell yeah. Like it's just so infectious. I don't give a fuck that they play it 10 times like during the
like,
running time.
Play it 12 times.
I
love it. It's great.
I know why this movie stands out for you, and you mentioned it before. It's the leotard butt cracks. Anyway, everybody, thank you again for hanging out, for enjoying this conversation about Murder Rock Dancing Death from 1984 by Lucio Fulci. I'm very happy we could have this fun, enlightening conversation. You have given me a lot to chew on, guys, and still with the dancing. Join us back in, oh my gosh, August for another our next class. I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about, but hey, if there's a film that you want us to talk about, maybe throw it in the comments and we'll look at it and take it under advisement and then come up with a full curriculum and everything. Definitely check out Brian and AC and everybody else on the fearsome faculty. Their information will be down below. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications and all that business. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
I want to say just, our thoughts and prayers to
Fritz, Steve.
Fritz and Steve. Like,
of course. Thank you.
They were supposed to be
I forgot to bring it back around.
Because he was supposed to be on here, and he's another huge fan of this amazing film, this masterpiece of 80s nostalgia cheese.
Maybe it's better that he wasn't. I wouldn't.
I feel like he would have been like right here, like
I know. I would hate for his first experience as a panelist to be me mostly crapping on a movie that he loves. Brian, you've been doing this with us for years, so I know you can take it, but no.
Well,
But-
I'm just trying to convince you of just the nonsense that that you speak of during this movie, because this movie is
Nonsense.
unlike anything. It's yeah, but that's the point of it. It's nonsense.
That's right.
and
That's right. It's
crazy,
intentional
and
nonsense.
it's amazing, and it's everything that you
It's
would
not
never
ineptitude.
expect
It's
in a
not
movie.
ineptitude. It's not somebody who doesn't know how to make a movie. It's somebody who's making this movie. And you're like, why are you making this movie? But it's the movie he wants to make.
This is the exact defense I give every time someone gives me guff for loving Freddy Got Fingered. Anyway, on that note, everybody, until next time, whenever that
I
is,
hate that
whatever
movie
that
too,
is.
by the way.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. You almost got this, Ian.
Steve, Big Swifty, you are now our replacement host.
Brian's being sent on sabbatical. And
Yes,
Sabbatical.
I tease because I love or something. All right, take care, everybody. Class dismissed.